Imagine building your life around two people you hold closest to your heart, your husband and your twin sister. They're supposed to be your foundation, your rock. Now, imagine waking up one day and realizing that everything you believed in was a lie. How well do you really know the ones you love? I thought I knew them better than anyone else in the world. But I was wrong. Terribly wrong. This isn't just a story of betrayal. It's a story of secrets, lies, and shattered trust. A story that changed my life forever. A story that could happen to anyone. And yet, when it happened to me, I didn't see it coming. Everything seemed so perfect, so normal, until it wasn't. I've always believed that family is everything. Growing up, my twin sister Emily and I were inseparable. We weren't just sisters. We were best friends, confidants, and each other's biggest supporters. People often said we had an unbreakable bond, one that only twins could understand. Emily and I shared everything. Our childhood secrets, our teenage crushes, and even our adult fears. It was comforting to know she would always be there for me, no matter what. I trusted her with my life. When I met Michael, it felt like my life had come full circle. He was everything I'd ever wanted in a partner. Thoughtful, kind, and deeply committed to building a future together. From the moment I introduced him to Emily, I was overjoyed by how well they got along. They joked, laughed, and shared an ease that made me feel like the luckiest woman in the world. Emily adored Michael, and he seemed to appreciate her company too. For years, I thought their closeness was a reflection of their shared love for me. It felt like the three of us had formed a perfect little family. But looking back now, I realized that perfection was an illusion, a carefully crafted facade hiding a secret that would eventually tear my world apart. At first, the changes were so subtle I barely noticed them. Emily began dropping by our house more often, sometimes without calling first. She'd bring coffee for Michael, not me, and say, "I know how much you love this flavor." They'd laugh over shared jokes, leaving me feeling like an outsider. I brushed it off, thinking it was just sibling closeness. Then there were the late-night texts. Michael's phone would buzz at odd hours, and he'd quickly turn it over or slip it into his pocket. When I asked who it was, he'd shrug and say, "Work stuff," but the way he avoided my gaze left a knot in my stomach. Emily, too, started to act differently. She'd cancel plans with me, claiming she was too busy, yet she always seemed to have time for Michael. One evening, I overheard them laughing in the kitchen. When I walked in, they both went silent, their smiles fading. "What's so funny?" I asked, forcing a laugh. "Oh, just a silly memory," Emily replied quickly, her voice unusually high-pitched. The tension grew over time. Michael would come home late, offering vague explanations that didn't quite add up. Emily, on the other hand, seemed to know details about his day that I didn't. She'd casually mention things like, "Michael said he had a tough meeting today," before I'd even had a chance to ask him myself. I started feeling like a stranger in my own home, an observer watching a story unfold that I couldn't fully understand. My intuition screamed at me, but I kept pushing it down, too afraid to confront the truth. One day, I found a scarf in Michael's car. It was Emily's, a vibrant red scarf she loved to wear. When I asked her about it, she laughed and said, "Oh, I must have left it there when we went shopping last week." But I couldn't recall the three of us being in the car together recently. Another time, I noticed a receipt from a restaurant tucked in Michael's wallet. It wasn't a place we'd been to together. When I questioned him, he brushed it off, saying it was from a work meeting. Yet something about his tone felt rehearsed, calculated. I began piecing together these small, seemingly insignificant moments. Each one on its own could have been innocent, but together, they painted a picture I wasn't ready to face. The turning point came one weekend when Emily offered to help Michael with a home renovation project. I had planned to join them, but Michael insisted I take a day off. "You've been working so hard," he said. "You deserve some time to yourself." Reluctantly, I agreed, but something about the way he said it felt off. I decided to return home earlier than planned, and when I walked through the door, I found them sitting on the floor, their heads close together. They looked up, startled, as if I'd caught them in the middle of something. Emily quickly stood up, brushing off her jeans. "We were just reminiscing about old times," she said, her voice shaky. My heart raced as I looked between them. Their behavior was becoming impossible to ignore. That night, I lay awake, replaying every moment in my mind. I knew I had to get to the bottom of this, but I wasn't sure how. The day everything unraveled started like any other. I was cleaning out our home office when I stumbled upon Michael's old phone tucked away in a drawer. My hands trembled as I powered it on, my heart pounding in my chest. At first, the messages seemed innocent, little notes about errands and jokes. But as I scrolled further, my breath caught. The texts between Michael and Emily were far from casual. They spoke of secret meetings, shared longing, and even moments of affection. One message stood out. "I can't wait to see you again tomorrow. I miss you." The world around me seemed to collapse as the truth hit me like a freight train. My husband, the man I trusted with my life, and my twin sister, the person I thought would never betray me, had been leading a secret life right under my nose. That evening, I confronted them. I showed Michael the messages, and he didn't deny it. His face was a mix of guilt and resignation. Emily sat in silence, tears streaming down her face. I demanded answers, but nothing they said could undo the betrayal. The bond we once shared was shattered, and in its place was a void I couldn't begin to comprehend. In the days and weeks that followed, I felt like a ghost, moving through life without purpose or direction. The pain was suffocating, but I knew I had to make a choice. Stay and try to rebuild the trust that had been broken, or walk away and start over. I chose to leave. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the only way I could begin to heal. I surrounded myself with people who truly cared about me, and I began the slow, painful process of rediscovering who I was without them. This experience taught me that even the strongest bonds can break, but it also showed me the strength I didn't know I had. To anyone watching this, know that you're not alone. Betrayal may break you, but it doesn't define you. You can rebuild. You can heal. Have you ever faced a betrayal that changed your life? Share your story in the comments below. Let's create a space where we can support and uplift one another. And if this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deeply personal and reflective stories. In our next video, we explore another family's journey of a shocking and emotional charged story of hidden desires and devastating revelation. My wife is secretly in love with my father and plans to leave me. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again in our next video.